before the wedding, my boyfriend cleared up the misunderstanding with his first love and they got back together. To compensate me, he said, "Let's get married first and divorce slowly later." She's thin-skinned. And what about Anna? His friend asked. My boyfriend fell silent for a long time and sighed softly. I can only wrong her for now. She's strong and reasonable. She wouldn't bear to hurt Roma either. We agreed she'd wait a year so I can fulfill my promise. Through the crack in the door, I saw my usually calm and gentle boyfriend's eyes redden after he spoke. What a pair of kind and righteous lovers. But why was it him who later knelt on the ground, begging me not to divorce? Chapter 01. The murmured voices in the room continued. You too, sigh. If either of you had just spoken up back then, you wouldn't have missed all these years, Ethan said, his eyes slightly red as he took a deep drag of his cigarette. We were young and proud. Looking back now, maybe youth wrapped in misunderstanding and pain is the most real thing in the world. Jonathan nodded. For Anna to do this for you, she must love you deeply. It's just a pity you cleared up the misunderstanding too late, after you already proposed to Roma. In the silent corridor, I stood like a statue, yet felt an urge to laugh. Their words made it sound as though I were the villain standing in the way of reunited lovers. Ethan frowned slightly. No matter what, Roma and I have feelings after 4 years together. Since I publicly promised to marry her, I won't go back on it. Jonathan asked again. Do you really have to get married first? Roma isn't like Anna. She's fragile and loves me deeply right now. A sudden breakup would destroy her, and she's thin-skinned. Canceling the wedding would embarrass her. After we get married, I'll slowly distance myself. Let her detach gradually. Then find a way for her to ask for a divorce herself. Anna and I discussed it. This will hurt her the least. And after you're married, living together. You mean that? Ethan stubbed out the cigarette. Anna got someone to forge a medical certificate saying I can't have sex for a year. Chapter 02. It was the height of spring. Everything in the world full of life. Yet as I walked in the sunshine, I felt as though I were in icy water. I met Ethan at my mother's sanatorium. He pursued me for a year. We dated for 4. At the start of the year, he completed a major career leap and became a CEO earning $5 million annually. 3 months ago, at a friend's wedding, he caught the bouquet and proposed to me publicly on one knee. Amid cheers, I tearfully said yes. Now, looking at the smiling faces around me, I felt dazed. I suddenly began to doubt the reality of this world. How could familiar people and familiar things suddenly become completely unrecognizable? Chapter 03. I sat alone by the roadside until the streetlights came on and the noise of people faded away. My phone rang. I glanced at it numbly, and my heart clenched. When I rushed to the hospital, the nurse had just removed the resuscitation equipment. My mother's thin body lay still, the blanket completely flat. I rushed over and hugged her, trembling with fear. A faint smile appeared on her gaunt face. Roma, don't be afraid. Mom will hold on. I still haven't fulfilled my wish. I can't leave without seeing you marry Ethan. I buried my face in the blanket and sobbed uncontrollably. Ethan arrived half an hour later. He carefully asked the doctor about her condition, checked the 4-drip, then sat by the bed and gently chatted with my mother. When she saw him, her mood clearly improved. Back then, when Ethan volunteered at the sanatorium, he had treated her with the same patience and care. He was still a slightly shy young man. The elderly residents quickly noticed us and eagerly tried to match us together. We blushed and avoided each other's eyes. Later, he cornered me in the storage room and nervously asked, Roma, can I pursue you? That was 5 years ago. I had just turned 25, blooming at my best. Now I was 30, with faint lines at the corners of my eyes. Roma, you must be hungry. Eat this. A coat draped over my shoulders. Ethan handed me a bowl of steaming wontons. Eyes full of concern, I stared at him. The care in his eyes was real. The warm coat was real. The hot wontons were real. But what I heard today was also real. Chapter 04. Anna was one of Ethan's childhood friends. I had met her a few times. She wasn't a typical beauty, but she had a charming, heroic air, short hair and a straightforward personality. I once asked Ethan, your friend is quite unique. Why haven't I seen her before? He replied coldly, she stupidly married and moved away. Her husband cheated. She divorced and came back this year. I scolded him for that. Don't say that to her face. He only snorted. Later, at Jonathan's housewarming party, Anna drank with everyone. After a few drinks, she said her stomach hurt and she couldn't drink more. Ethan suddenly spoke coldly. Too good to drink with us? Already making excuses? I tugged his sleeve, but he shook me off. I hit the table and hurt my hand. He didn't notice, only stared at Anna. Everyone tried to stop him, but he continued. If you want back into this circle, show some sincerity. Anna, pale and sweating, picked up a bottle and drank it. Ethan's clenched fist turned white. She ended up hospitalized with gastritis. Later we visited to apologize. Anna sat pale and calm. I'm fine, thank you. Ethan kept his head down and said nothing. Chapter 05. I asked Jonathan to meet me. I arrived early and sat in the cafe in a daze. He hurried in, looking nervous as he approached. Roma, what did you want to see me about? I took a slow sip of coffee and looked at him. You owe me a favor, don't you? He was the youngest in the group and from the best family. 2 years ago, at his family's villa, our boat capsized. He couldn't swim. I held him until help came. He nodded nervously. Of course. Then repay me. Tell me everything about Ethan and Anna. He froze. I heard your conversation that day. The story wasn't complicated. 2 young lovers confessed, fought, broke up. She married far away. He moved on. Years later, she divorced and returned. They met again. After tears and confessions, they reunited. A beautiful love story. If the bride wasn't me, Jonathan whispered. Roma, don't marry him. He doesn't deserve you. Chapter 06. When I got home, Ethan was just bringing the last dish to the table. Perfect timing. Roma, come try my new dish. Ethan was usually busy and rarely cooked, only occasionally showing off during holidays. I walked over slowly. The new dish was spicy chicken. I don't eat spicy food. Among all of us, only Anna loves spicy food. Seeing my low mood, he smiled. Tired from wedding preparations? I told you to leave it to the design company. It's not that important. You don't need to check everything yourself. I looked at him. But there's only one wedding. Isn't it important? He patted my head helplessly. I'm worried about you. There's only a month left before the wedding. Don't exhaust yourself. During dinner, I quietly ate and didn't touch the spicy chicken. He didn't notice. Halfway through the meal, he cleared his throat and spoke seriously. Roma, there's something I want to discuss first. It's my first year as CEO. I want to set an example. So I've decided with the board to take a salary of $1 this year. He smiled. Don't worry. If I meet this year's targets, I'll get 2 years' salary at the end of next year. I looked at him, stunned. Why? Why make this decision before the wedding? He explained patiently. It has nothing to do with the wedding. It's for career growth. The money will just come later. It's still ours. I slowly put down my chopsticks and leaned back. What if we divorce before then? Will it still be ours? He froze and frowned. Roma, how can you talk about divorce so casually? I smiled. When a man changes, it's like he becomes someone else. Calculations and schemes laid bare before you. I wanted to expose him, but my mother only had 6 months left. Her greatest wish was to see us married. I remember Anna is a financial planner, right? I asked. A trace of discomfort crossed his face. I think so. Why ask? I smiled. Nothing. I just thought it sounded like professional advice from her. That night, as we slept, Ethan's hand habitually rested on my waist. Chapter 07. Ethan had a strong sexual appetite. He was my first love, and everything I knew about intimacy came from him. Not long after we officially started dating, he showed an intense desire for physical closeness. Whenever we were alone, he focused on only one thing: holding me and kissing, pressing me down and kissing, roaming hands and endless kisses. After the first time we slept together, I cried under the blanket for a long time, partly because of the pain, partly because of fear. He was gentle and considerate in daily life, yet in bed he became someone else entirely, fierce and intense, so unfamiliar that I barely recognized him. He spent a long time comforting me. Every day he apologized, brought flowers and snacks, and picked me up from work rain or shine. Later, older female colleagues told me, being rough in bed doesn't mean he's rough as a person. Being wild in bed doesn't mean he's wild in real life. Girl, just relax about these things. Eventually, shyly, I accepted this contrast. He was overjoyed, showering me with kisses. Roma, I'll treat you well for the rest of my life. From then on, he became unstoppable. I was often kept awake until late at night, and in the morning my legs would feel weak. He had many ideas and coaxed me to cooperate with them. I pouted and asked, "Where did you even learn all this?" He whispered in my ear, "Online, never practiced before. I swear." Chapter 08. At this moment, his palm grew hot. I felt only sarcasm and ridicule. He must have promised Anna he would no longer touch me. So they fabricated a medical report saying he couldn't have sex. But now what was this supposed to mean? Did he think that since I hadn't seen the report yet, those promises didn't count? So he could continue taking what he wanted with a clear conscience? I closed my eyes and spoke coldly. "Not lately. I don't feel well. Didn't your period just end?" He leaned closer to kiss me. "Disgusting," I said. He froze. "What?" "I feel a bit sick." I removed his hand and pulled the blanket tighter. Probably caught a chill. The phone on the bedside table suddenly rang, a ringtone I had never heard before. His body tensed, though his tone sounded annoyed. "Who calls at this hour?" He glanced at the screen. "My secretary. Probably something urgent." "Go to sleep. I'll handle it." "Okay." He took the phone and went to the study. 1 minute later, I got up and quietly walked to the door. His lowered voice drifted out. "I didn't touch her. I feel more like family toward her now. If I make it too obvious all at once, it wouldn't look good. Roma is innocent. She's done nothing wrong. She just loves me. We're destined to bear a lot for love. I'll find an excuse to sleep in separate rooms tomorrow." "Anna, don't be sad. It hurts me to see you like this." Chapter 09. The next morning, Ethan had already prepared breakfast. He was usually hands-off with housework, so this level of attentiveness was rare. "Roma, you said you weren't feeling well yesterday. Are you better now?" I sat down. Must be the stress from the wedding." He looked concerned, then hesitated. "How about this, starting tonight? I'll sleep in the study so you can rest properly. What do you think?" I took a sip of porridge, looked up at him, and smiled faintly. "I think that sounds good." He seemed surprised that I agreed so quickly. His expression grew complicated. After a moment, he remembered something and said casually, "Jonathan's hot pot chain opens tomorrow. He invited you. If you're busy, I can decline for you." "No need. I'll go." He looked surprised. "Weren't you the one who never wanted to hang out with them? I used to have to persuade you for ages." Ethan's group of friends was a mixed bunch, and every gathering turned into a drinking contest. I had once advised him to take care of his health and attend fewer of those dinners. Somehow they found out, and ever since then, they treated me with subtle hostility, especially after Anna came back. As insiders to that past relationship, they seemed to have reached a silent agreement to keep the secret and look at me with knowing mockery. I had complained to Ethan, but he brushed it off. They're just like that. They instinctively reject outsiders. "Don't take it personally, outsider." The word stung, but didn't Anna join later too? He chuckled lightly. "How can you compare yourself to her? She's always been one of us, and she's carefree, never delicate. You're different." Looking back now, the signs had been there all along. I watched his slightly furrowed expression and smiled. "We're getting married soon. Jonathan's your best friend. We should give him face. Besides, Anna will definitely be there, right? My company's researching financial clients lately. I could ask her for advice." Ethan's brow twitched. "Suit yourself. If you want to go, go." "Anna, I don't know, maybe." Chapter 10. Jonathan's hot pot restaurant was luxurious, and the grand opening was lively. When Ethan and I arrived, everyone was gathered around a large round table, flattering Jonathan, who sat at the head. Even childhood friendships couldn't erase class differences and shared interests. Anna, dressed in a sleek leather jacket, sat alone on a single sofa smoking. Thin smoke curled around her, making her look cool and detached as ever. When she saw us, she glanced at me briefly and then looked away without expression. When her gaze met Ethan's, a faint sorrow and restraint flickered in her eyes. Jonathan stood up to greet us. Ethan and Sister Roma are here, everyone. Take your seats. We sat in 2 empty chairs. A man on Ethan's right stood up and shouted, Anna, sit here. Anna lifted her eyes but didn't move. Everyone urged her, Anna, come over. You afraid of Ethan? Think he'll eat you? Their smiles were full of hidden meaning. Anna stood up and flicked her cigarette away. Bullshit. She walked over confidently and sat beside Ethan. Ethan laughed and scolded them. You bastards, can't even keep quiet for a hot pot? Someone grinned at me. Roma, don't mind us. We're used to joking like this. I smiled politely. I don't mind. You all grew up with Ethan. After so many years together, surely you wouldn't all join forces just to deceive me alone. Chapter 11. The atmosphere froze for a moment. Embarrassment and discomfort appeared on everyone's faces. Someone forced a laugh. Where did that come from? You and Ethan are getting married next month. We all wish you a lifetime of happiness. Another added vaguely. Relationships are about who came first. If you were the first, no one would have anything to say. Jonathan sat silently at the head of the table, not quite daring to look at me. Ethan slammed his glass onto the Lazy Susan and said seriously, Enough. Today is Jonathan's big day. Stop talking nonsense. Everyone quickly echoed him. Right. Right. Today is Jonathan's celebration. Come on. Bring out the food and drinks. At that moment, Anna spoke lazily from the side. The guys are happy and joking around. What nonsense. I didn't mind at all. Ethan, why are you so nervous? Ethan stiffened slightly, panic flashing across his face. He forced a smile. I meant them. No special meaning, just a figure of speech. His tone softened noticeably. It felt like a man who acted tough outside but softened in front of the woman he truly loved. Mocking and sarcastic gazes landed on me again. Jonathan suddenly stood up and said roughly, The host can't neglect his guests. I'll go check on the food. Soon the dishes began arriving, servers filing in one after another. A young waitress slipped and spilled a plate of icy peach dessert onto my shoulder. Startled, I cried out, "Ah!" Ethan, who had been quietly talking to Anna, turned immediately. What happened? Seeing the situation, he stood up at once, helped me take off my stained coat, and put his own jacket on me carefully. The entire sequence flowed naturally, his concern instinctive. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Unaware, he grabbed a towel and gently wiped a strand of my wet hair, murmuring, "Roma, are you cold? Do you want to go home first?" I instinctively glanced at Anna. Her lips were pressed together, her face dark. "I'm fine, just the coat got wet," I said calmly. "It's nothing. Don't delay everyone's dinner." Ethan seemed to come back to his senses and stiffened. Without looking at Anna, he explained to the others, "Roma hasn't been feeling well lately. I'm worried it might get worse." The waitress apologized repeatedly, and Jonathan told her to hurry and clean my coat. During dinner, Anna remained silent the entire time. The waitress soon returned my coat, cleaned and blow-dried. I gave Ethan his jacket back and put on my coat. Just as he was about to wear it, Anna suddenly pointed at a spray bottle on the table. "Is this odor remover?" Jonathan nodded. "Yes, some customers don't like their clothes smelling like hot pot." Anna smiled slightly. "I'll try it." She looked at the jacket in Ethan's hands. "Your clothes must smell." Perfect chance to test whether it works. Chapter 12. Before Ethan could speak, she grabbed the jacket and sprayed it repeatedly from top to bottom. She sniffed casually and said disdainfully to Jonathan, "It doesn't work. Still smells. You should change brands." Jonathan's face darkened. "Are you going too far?" Anna froze, clearly not expecting that tone. Her face turned pale as she stood there stiffly. No one dared offend Jonathan, so no one spoke. Ethan stood up, took the jacket from her, sniffed it, and frowned. "It does smell. If it won't come out, just throw it away." With that, he tossed it into the nearby trash can. Anna and Ethan exchanged a silent glance and sat down quietly, her eyes reddening slightly. Jonathan looked at me, but I lowered my eyes and stared at the jacket lying in the trash. It was the birthday gift I had given Ethan just 1 month ago. Chapter 13. That night, alone in the master bedroom, I opened the surveillance app. While Ethan had been at work during the day, I had installed a small camera on the side of the bookshelf. At that moment, he was lying on the small bed he had recently bought. On a video call, Anna's voice came through clearly. I really shouldn't have acted like that today. I regret it too. When I saw you being so close with her, I got jealous. Ethan laughed. Your jealousy actually makes me happy. I know you feel wronged. Vent if you need to. After all, your husband will protect you. Anna said softly. I hope I didn't hurt Roma today. Ethan replied. You think about her so much and she doesn't even know. Shouldn't you comfort me instead? Anna teased. And how do you want me to comfort you? Last time, didn't I already show you? Not enough. Ethan said. I want more. We agreed not to sleep together so we wouldn't hurt Roma or go against morality, but can't you at least satisfy the small request? Anna scoffed lightly. You greedy cat. Soft, rustling sounds came from the phone. From the camera's angle, I watched Ethan's face as he stared at the screen, desire slowly coloring his expression. When the woman's faint, suggestive sounds began, I turned off the phone. I work at an online marketing company, and my schedule is relatively flexible. When I'm not busy, I go to the hospital to accompany my mom. The wedding agency called to confirm various details. Unlike before, when I carefully reviewed everything, now I answered every question with the same response. Whatever. The planner grew uncertain and asked nervously. Miss, the wedding will proceed as planned, right? As planned. In the hospital room, Mom held my face and studied me intently. Roma, why have you lost weight? I gently wiped her legs with a towel, as if wiping a piece of lifeless, decaying wood. Looking up, I spoke playfully. The wedding is next month. I need to slim down so the dress looks better. Mom pretended to be angry. No need. My daughter is the most beautiful. The nurses and patients here all praise you for being pretty and filial. That boy Ethan is lucky to marry such a beauty. She had long been worn down by illness and was only pretending to feel well. I suppressed the sting in my nose and smiled brightly. Exactly. Jonathan appeared at the doorway carrying a pile of things. I looked at him in surprise. What are you doing here? He smiled shyly. I've wanted to visit your mother for a long time, but I was afraid of being presumptuous. When Mom learned he was Ethan's friend, she warmly grabbed his hand. My Ethan depends on you all. He's soft-hearted and straightforward if he ever does something wrong. Please be patient with him. Jonathan nodded obediently. Of course, Auntie. After leaving the hospital, I said to him, you didn't have to come. Ethan's matters have nothing to do with you. There's no need to feel guilty or make amends. He muttered softly. That's not it. What? He looked up at me. I came to tell you that Ethan and Anna have come up with a plan. Later, they might make you think he has something going on with his secretary. Be careful. My gaze drifted to the flowers swaying in the flower bed. Bright and colorful, but short-lived. I smiled calmly. I understand. Thank you. Jonathan blinked and said nothing more. Chapter 14. That night, Ethan came home from work while I sat cross-legged on the couch, writing a report on my laptop. He wandered around the kitchen and peeked out. You didn't cook? I had a lot of work today. No time. Over the years, to fully support his career, I never let him worry about anything at home. I cooked according to his tastes, prepared his outfits in advance every day. He's a bit of a neat freak and can't stand disorder. He used to spend a lot of time cleaning himself, but after his promotion he said, my time should be used to create greater value. So I took over everything. He was proud of convincing me, but that wasn't the truth. I simply liked seeing the person I loved pursue his dreams without distraction. When one person expands territory outside, someone else must quietly support them behind the scenes. Besides housework, when he was too busy, I helped with data research, information gathering, and making presentations. I gave up my hobbies, gave up promotions, and revolved entirely around him. Later I read a sentence, the more you give to someone, the more you love them, but it doesn't make them love you more. So a love-obsessed brain truly has no good ending. The saintly woman deserves to dig wild vegetables. I even texted you today saying I wanted braised pork ribs tonight. Didn't you see it? Ethan frowned slightly, a hint of displeasure in his tone. I picked up my phone and glanced at it casually. Oh, I just saw it. He pressed his lips together, said nothing more, and went straight into the study. At his core, Ethan is emotionally stable. His way of expressing anger is to shut himself in the study and stay silent. In the past, I would immediately make something delicious and go in to coax him, or simply take off my clothes and seduce him. He always surrendered. Chapter 15. The large desk in the study, the leather swivel chair, even the windowsill, everywhere still held traces of our past frenzy. At that moment, I stared at the computer expressionlessly, not moving at all. An hour later, he walked out and said casually, "My secretary ran into some trouble. I'm going to her place to check on her." I looked up at him. "What does your secretary's home situation have to do with you?" He replied lightly, "She's a young girl living alone in the city. If she has difficulties, as her boss I should care." I watched him silently for 2 seconds. "Okay." He suddenly fell silent. His face darkened as he frowned at me. "Aren't you going?" I tilted my head and asked. He stared at me, gritted his teeth. "I'm going." From that day on, I never cooked again. Whenever Ethan came home, takeout had already arrived. Beautiful packaging, delicious-looking food, and no dishes to wash. It just wasn't guaranteed to be fresh or clean. So what? Would it kill anyone? If I could eat it, Ethan could too. The house was no longer spotless at all times. I didn't care, but Ethan couldn't stand it. His obsessive habits made it impossible for him to ignore the mess. "Roma, shouldn't you spend more time on the house lately?" I replied seriously. "This is a critical period in my career. Ethan, we're a team, you should support me." He said nothing, because those were the exact words he used to tell me, and I truly had supported him. Turnabout is fair play, isn't it? That night, while I was sleeping soundly, I suddenly felt hands moving inside my clothes. Before I could react, my wrists were pinned above my head and my lips were seized fiercely. I couldn't move at all. I knew how forceful Ethan could be in bed. I endured silently for a moment. When he released my hands and lowered his head, I raised my hand. Slap! My palm struck his face. At the same time, I kicked hard. He hissed in pain and rolled off the bed. "Are you crazy?" I shouted before he could. He winced in pain. "Roma, it's me." "Of course I know it's you," I snapped. "Then why?" "I know everything." I cut him off, my expression full of sorrow. He froze. "No, what?" "I saw the medical report in your bag." I looked at him mournfully. "So you can't have sex for a year. You hid it because you didn't want me to worry? That's why you moved to the study, right? We're about to be newly married, but we still have a long life ahead. I won't let you do anything that harms your health. Don't worry, 1 year is nothing. I'll stay by your side." He fell silent, sitting on the floor, staring at me with a complicated expression. Chapter 16. The wedding took place as scheduled, grand and magnificent. I wore glamorous makeup and a graceful cheapao, elegant and curvy, beautiful enough to draw endless admiration. Ethan looked at me, surprise shining in his eyes. Even his groomsmen friends seemed taken aback, as if they had never expected the usually barefaced me to look so stunning. Anna attended as a groomsman, with her short hair and black suit. She looked sharp and capable, with a unique aura. Standing on the stage, I smiled sweetly while tears streamed down my face. Because everywhere I looked, I saw my mother in the audience. Her sunken eyes were wide open, fixed on the stage the entire time, focused like a child. I knew she was engraving this moment into her memory. Guests whispered, "The bride must love the groom so much, she hasn't stopped crying tears of happiness." Ethan's eyes reddened too, moved by my tears. 1 week after the wedding, my mother passed away peacefully in the hospital. I accepted the news calmly and began preparing the funeral arrangements in an orderly manner. Ethan knew how close my mother and I were, and he stayed by my side attentively. He handled communications with others, cooked my favorite dishes every day, and at night quietly came in to pour me water and tuck me in. During the 3 days of the vigil, he never left, doing everything he could. Several times, that ringtone meant for a certain person rang. He simply glanced at it and hung up. Looking at my mother's portrait, I wondered why humans were so complicated. Why couldn't they love only one person? Life's unpredictability made me waver, until the last day of the vigil, when Anna appeared. Chapter 17. I went behind a cabinet in the storage room to get something. Just as I was about to leave, the door burst open. A man and woman stumbled in, locked in a fierce kiss. They were so absorbed that they didn't notice me in the corner. Their heavy breathing echoed in the small space. I watched the tangled pair silently. Ethan, Anna, your hand, the woman murmured softly. In my mind, I told myself, Roma, don't move. There are people outside. Mom has not yet been laid to rest. Ethan, are you in there? A voice called from outside. The two separated in panic. Anna quickly pulled down her skirt. The door opened, and Jonathan peeked in. Ethan clicked his tongue. So it's you. Jonathan frowned. Couldn't you control yourselves at a time like this? Anna looked displeased and lifted her chin slightly. Ethan and I have never crossed the line. Don't make us sound so filthy. Ethan nodded. We still have moral boundaries. Jonathan scoffed and turned away. Ethan and Anna left one after the other. I stood silently for a while before opening the door. Jonathan stood outside with his hands in his pockets, looking at me with deep eyes, as if wanting to speak but stopping himself. Suddenly, I asked, "This world is materialistic, right?" He froze. What? I hugged myself and slowly slid down the wall, whispering, "That way." Mom won't be able to see them. When Anna and the others left, they came to say goodbye. Ethan thanked everyone. Then, as he turned around, he glanced at Anna and suddenly put his finger in his mouth, gently sucking it. Anna curved her lips and lowered her head. Chapter 18. Anna unexpectedly went viral online. It started when someone posted a photo of her at my wedding, dressed in a sharp black suit among the groomsmen. She looked like a black rose among thorns, strikingly handsome. Her cool, misty eyes were fixed on the groom. Guys, does anyone else suddenly get the androgynous charm? Women can be this cool? She's redefining femininity for me. Standing among the groomsmen, she must be close to the groom. The way she looks at him screams tragic B aesthetics. Who is this woman? What has she been through? I want to know everything. While the internet buzzed, 2 days later Anna appeared. She posted a video under the account name A Divorced Woman's Restarted Life. In the video, she sat by a window with white curtains drifting behind her, calm and composed. She spoke to the camera as if baring her soul. 30 years old. My ex-husband cheated. No house. No car. No savings. That's me, a divorced woman experiencing the darkest moment of her life. I'm grateful for everyone's kindness. I never wanted to make my private life public, but I know many women are going through the same pain I once did. I made it out, and I want to take you with me. The world is noisy and chaotic. I hope we can stay true to ourselves, grow strong, and patiently wait for our time to bloom. Her account exploded. Her followers skyrocketed in a very short time. People were captivated by the contrast between her aloof appearance and her inner strength. They nicknamed her Thorn Sister. She quit her job and began live streaming almost daily. In a worldly, reflective tone, she talked about decisively leaving her cheating ex-husband and the peaceful independence of single life. Truly fulfilled women wear short hair and suits, live freely, and don't need to objectify themselves or please men. I laughed while looking at my phone. What's so funny? Ethan asked from across the dining table. I turned off the phone and removed my Bluetooth earphones. Nothing, just an interesting video. He looked at me and suddenly sighed. It feels like you haven't smiled like that in front of me for a long time. Really? I replied lightly. He narrowed his eyes. Roma, I suddenly miss how we used to be. I yawned and interrupted him. I'm getting tired of takeout. I'm not busy lately. How about I bring lunch to your office during this time? He hesitated for a moment. Okay. That night, I opened the camera and watched him video call Anna. Anna said, "This opportunity is perfect. First plant the seed in her mind and guide her slowly. When everything builds up and explodes, you can prove your innocence with the secretary. After that, everything will fall into place." Ethan fell silent for a moment. Roma's mother just passed away, and she loves me deeply. Should we slow this down? Anna didn't speak. After a long pause, she choked up. Ethan, maybe we should stop. Ethan panicked. Anna, that's not what I meant. We don't want to hurt Roma. If we step back now, we still can. No, Ethan said hurriedly. We promised not to let you leave us with regrets again. I know you're thinking of Roma and want to end things quickly. I was foolish just now. Anna asked softly. Do you think I'm a bad woman? Of course not. You're calm, kind, and smart. Look how much the netizens admire you. Do you know how much pressure I'm under? I quit my job. My live stream hasn't reached the stage of selling products yet. I have no income now, and I still have to watch you spend every day with another woman. Didn't you say a professional company is helping you? Take it slowly. Don't worry about money. Your husband will transfer it to you. I don't need your money. I can earn it myself. My money will be yours sooner or later. Anna fell silent. Ethan coaxed gently. Come on, didn't you say you bought toys? Take them out. Chapter 19. I arrived at Ethan's company carrying a lunch bag. Before leaving home, I had called him to tell him roughly when I would arrive. When I reached his office, the door was slightly ajar, so I walked straight in. His young secretary was standing on tiptoe adjusting his tie. He had his head lowered, one hand lightly resting at her waist. The posture looked intimate. I stood at the doorway and watched them quietly. When Ethan saw me, he grabbed the secretary's arm and pulled her behind him, his face showing panic. Roma, don't misunderstand. I smiled. Misunderstand what? I brought lunch. I made a bit too much today. Would you like to eat with us? Miss? The secretary peeked out from behind him and looked at me curiously. Ethan stared at me, slightly displeased. You're being this generous? I looked back at him. What's wrong with being generous? Generous with food, generous with people. Ethan, isn't that good? He pressed his lips together and said nothing more. After work, I watched the secretary leave the building and walked up to her. She looked wary. Ma'am, this is a public place. Please don't act impulsively. I smiled gently. I know you don't have feelings for Ethan. She raised an eyebrow. Sizing me up, the boss said his wife is simple-minded. You don't look like it. I smiled. My job gives me access to a lot of information. At a cafe, I calmly told her everything. At first she listened carelessly, then her face darkened. Finally she jumped up and slammed her hand on the table. A pair of shameless scumbags, doing disgusting things in the name of love and righteousness. And they think they're noble for it? Just because they didn't put that rotten cucumber in means they didn't cross the moral line? Ugh. Chapter 20. Her voice made nearby customers turn to look. She sat back down, staring at me with bright black eyes. Sis, I'm sorry. Ethan and Anna fooled me. Anna often came to the company to see him and kept implying that you were the reason they couldn't get back together. I was stupid and agreed to help Ethan act. We absolutely can't let them get away with this. Whatever you need, just say it. I never expected comfort and support from a stranger after suffering alone for so long. I hesitated. I don't know if this will affect your job. She laughed. Don't worry. I came out to my dad and he didn't accept it. So I ran away from home to work. My dad's company isn't any smaller than this one. That night, Ethan came home drunk. He sat on the sofa, quietly staring at me. Whenever he came back from business dinners, I would immediately prepare hangover soup or cut fruit for him. Now, I calmly applied a face mask, read my book, said good night politely, and went to bed. As I was about to turn off the lights, Ethan walked in carrying a pillow. I frowned. It's late. I'm going to sleep. Without a word, he tossed the pillow onto the bed and lay down beside me. I propped myself up, thinking of what to say. With his eyes closed, he pressed me down with one hand. Relax. I won't touch you. I just want to lie here. I didn't move. In the darkness, he suddenly asked, Don't you care? I stayed silent, breathing softly. After a while, he spoke again, his voice low. You don't mind that I'm with another woman? I thought quietly to myself. Looks like it's time to speed things up. Chapter 21. In Anna's live stream, among a flood of comments like I want to learn from you. Sis and sis hug me. A different voice appeared. What's your relationship with the groom in that photo? The way you look at the groom feels a bit suspicious. When Anna read the comments aloud, she didn't respond to them. But soon, Someone dropped a couple photo in the comments section. In the picture, a younger Ethan and Anna were hugging and making a heart gesture. The comments exploded as everyone started gossiping. I knew it! That look was definitely suspicious. She looked at the groom so ambiguously. Didn't she say she didn't need men and enjoyed being single? Was that persona fake? Also, who asks a divorced woman to be a groomsman? Are they really over? Poor bride. The speculation grew wilder. Anna pinned a comment at the top. The groom and I were indeed in a relationship in the past. But that's long in the past. Now we are simply open and honest friends. Please consider the feelings of the other people involved and stop excessive speculation. Netizens weren't fools. Give them the slightest clue and they dig everything up. This perfunctory explanation only triggered an even bigger wave of questioning. Ethan bought me a diamond necklace and watched my expression, hesitating as if he wanted to say something. I accepted it. Thanks. You've got good taste. He hesitated. Anna's live streaming online now. Have you seen it? I put on the necklace and looked in the mirror. Yeah, she's pretty popular. His gaze flickered. You saw the photo too? The one of you and Anna? I did. I thought you'd be angry. Satisfied. I took off the necklace and placed it back in the box. Why would I be angry? Anna explained it clearly. That was in the past. Besides, you told me before that you'd been in a relationship once. He fell silent, staring at me with a dark, unreadable expression. I gave him a smile. Oh, I ordered spicy boiled fish for delivery tonight. You should like it. That night, the sound of his video call in the study was loud. I got tired of watching the camera. Anyway, it always ended in something not suitable for children, too painful to watch. Chapter 22. The next morning, before leaving, Ethan said with lowered eyes, Anna wants to go to my company and livestream to give the public an explanation and prove that our relationship is innocent. After all, we're friends. And if this keeps developing, it'll hurt my image at work. So I agreed to help her. I asked, puzzled, why are you telling me this? You're my wife. If my ex comes to see me, I should inform you. Then before, you never told me. Was it because she never came to see you? He pressed his lips together. From now on, I'll tell you everything. I waved my hand casually. That's not necessary. A flash of resentment suddenly appeared in his eyes. Roma, do you really care so little about me? I blinked and looked at him calmly. Ethan, I trust you. Isn't that a good thing? Chapter 23. In the morning, I had just finished handling work at the company when the secretary called. Sis, Anna's live stream starts at 11. Don't forget. I won't. At 11. I made myself a latte, sat on the swing chair on the company terrace, and opened my phone. Anna started streaming from the entrance of the company. She wore a simple pink suit and talked confidently as she walked. People always say the best ex should be like someone who's dead, but I say only those who have truly moved on can remain friends. I know some haters are slandering me, but unfortunately, I, Anna, am not someone who tolerates others walking all over me. Today, I'm here to slap certain people in the face and let them know that relationships between people aren't just about those filthy things. She entered the CEO's office. Ethan greeted her with a bright smile, and the two exchanged open, friendly greetings. Ethan gave her a simple tour of the office. Then they sat down and chatted familiarly about recent updates and finances. They looked like old friends with no grudges. There were nearly 10,000 viewers in the live stream, each with their own opinions. My queen is still my queen. The more people doubt her, the more openly she proves them wrong. That's what you call confidence and grace. Aren't the haters ashamed? Or maybe it's all just acting. Why are people always misogynistic? The moment a woman is capable or independent, she gets slandered. Do women have to be tied to men to exist in this world? In the video, the secretary entered carrying tea. As she passed by the camera, her hand slipped and water spilled, making the image blurry. Anna maintained a good attitude and smiled at Ethan. My viewers won't accept this. You'll have to fix it. The secretary hurriedly apologized. Our marketing department has professional live stream equipment. I'll go get it right away. Soon, the live stream briefly went offline and then resumed. Throughout the process, the two kept chatting naturally and easily. Chapter 24. 20 minutes later, Anna gave her closing remarks to the viewers. To avoid affecting the company's normal operations, Today's live stream ends here. I also hope everyone in the stream faces the world with a clean and pure heart. She smiled off camera. Please turn it off. Secretary, got it. The camera moved and suddenly faced a wall. I'll leave the equipment here for now. I'll ask the tech department to collect it later. You two continue, I'll head out first. But the live stream wasn't turned off. It kept running. Anna's voice sounded again, but her tone had changed. What did you mean by what you said last night? Ethan sighed. Anna, suddenly I don't know if what we're doing is right. You're hesitating? No reply. The screen fell into a long silence. The live stream exploded. What's going on? Did the staff forget to turn off the stream? So they don't know it's still live? The atmosphere is completely different now. Something's wrong. Definitely something wrong. Ethan sounded downcast. I've been with Roma for 5 years. Feelings don't disappear overnight. Sometimes. I really can't bear to treat her like this. And what about me? Can you bear to treat me like this? We agreed that to avoid hurting Roma, you'd marry her first. Slowly distance yourself for a year, then let her initiate the divorce. We've considered her so much, isn't that already merciful enough? I don't know. Roma loves me very much. Her life can't be without me. Anna's voice trembled with tears. But I love you too. I was even afraid you'd mind that I was married before. So I let you marry once too. I thought that way we'd be even. But why are you wavering now? I think we should reconsider. Thankfully, we still have a conscience. We agreed not to cross moral lines, not to sleep together before divorce. It's not too late. Anna was silent for a moment, then said softly, right. After all, we've only been doing it through video. Ethan spoke with guilt. I promised not to touch Roma. You said you understood my needs. So Suddenly, the sound of rustling clothes came from the video. Anna's soft breathing followed. Ethan, I've figured it out. I shouldn't worry about morality or others' feelings. We love each other. Ethan, I want it too. I know you do too. Those toys, I imagined you to reach the peak. Anna, don't be impulsive. This is the office. His voice was cut off. As if they were kissing intensely, her voice turned soft and seductive. Doesn't it feel more exciting here? Facing a blank wall, the sounds of heavy breathing grew louder. The live stream exploded. Is this live porn? Why am I hearing this? Why hasn't it been cut off? My ears are contaminated. No visuals. So the platform didn't detect it. They acted polite in front of the camera and now this? It's all fake. They think viewers are idiots. What they said earlier is disgusting. The bride is so pitiful. Cheating and still using morality as a shield, ruining another woman's happiness for their love. Shameless. Video doesn't count. Most shameless thing I've heard this year. They already doing it. Chapter 25. A minute later, the platform detected certain keywords and quickly cut off the live stream. I took a sip of coffee and looked toward the clear blue sky in the distance. Unlike the shock the netizens felt, I had seen scenes like this explode far too many times. My heart no longer stirred in the slightest. The only thing that surprised me a little was that Ethan actually wanted to turn back. How ridiculous. My phone rang. I glanced at it. Jonathan. I patiently waited for the call to ring until it hung up naturally. 1 second later, the little secretary called again. I answered. She was screaming on the other end. I left the office and went straight out of the company. I thought maybe those 2 dogs would leak something while talking, but I didn't expect them to deliver such a huge gift themselves. This is too thrilling. I'm going to lie low and take my dad's rescue flight abroad to calm down. Sis, what are you going to do next? I narrowed my eyes and watched a bird glide across the sky, disappearing in an instant. I'm planning to go away for a while too. Sis, see you in the Jianghu. Chapter 26. That day, I immediately took annual leave, hurried home to pack my things, and flew to a seaside city that very night. I had personally experienced too much filth and scheming recently. I needed to cleanse myself. The live erotic show incident kept escalating, and some of the lines even became internet memes. Video sex doesn't count as sex. Morality and conscience can't stop us from becoming one. Divorced lovers are more compatible. Anna's account was permanently banned for spreading obscene content. A slightly overweight man posted a video. I am Thorn's sister, also known as Spring Palace sister now, the ex-husband she mentioned countless times. Now, I can finally speak for myself. Our marriage fell apart in less than half a year. I asked for a divorce. I can't publicly reveal the exact reason, but if you're interested, you can DM me. She refused to agree because she thought divorcing too quickly would be embarrassing. Later she agreed, but then went around saying I cheated. I swallowed this humiliation alive. The comments below were filled with DMs sent. The official website of Ethan's company released a statement. Our former CEO has been dismissed and terminated due to personal misconduct, as unanimously decided by the board of directors. I didn't turn off my phone or block anyone, just muted it. Aside from a few colleagues and friends, the people who called the most were Ethan and Jonathan. After making over 100 calls, Ethan began frantically sending messages. Roma, where are you? Please don't do anything stupid. I was wrong. I was just confused for a moment. You saw it too. She was the one who initiated it. Roma, please respond. Life is the most precious thing. Don't do anything foolish. I'll wait at home every day for you to come back. Jonathan called me once every morning and night, but only sent one message. Roma, if you need anything, just ask. I thought for a moment and replied, can you pick me up at the airport tomorrow? Of course. Chapter 27. The flight was delayed for 3 hours. As I exited the arrival gate, I immediately spotted Jonathan standing there properly and upright. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he jogged over to help with my luggage. I handed him a box of local souvenirs. Thank you for coming to pick me up. This is a gift for you. He looked pleasantly surprised, unable to suppress the smile at the corners of his mouth as he accepted it. In the car, he asked carefully, Roma, are you okay? I chuckled lightly. I'm all right, a little better than Ethan and Anna. His eyes curved with relief. That's how it should be. Chapter 28. When we arrived home, I entered the password and opened the door. The house was a complete mess. Ethan lay on the sofa with his eyes closed. Empty bottles and cigarette butts littered the floor. The air was filled with a sharp, mixed odor. He opened his eyes blankly. The moment he saw me, he shot up and rushed over, pulling me tightly into his arms. Roma, thank God, you're alive. You finally came back. His voice was hoarse, tinged with a sob. I tried to push him away but couldn't. Jonathan, I called. The person behind me immediately put down the luggage, yanked Ethan away from me, and stepped in front of me protectively. Ethan stared at us in shock. Why are you together? Have you been together this whole time? I smiled faintly. You look for your childhood friend. I look for your childhood friend. Is there a problem? Ethan's pupils trembled. Impossible. You love me so much. That's impossible. Enraged, he threw a punch at Jonathan. You're my brother. How could you do this? Jonathan took the hit and punched back. Why don't you think about what you did first? You betrayed her first. You did that in front of the whole country and still expect her to forgive you? I stood quietly aside, watching the two of them exchange blows until both were bruised and collapsed on the ground. I picked up a towel, crouched beside Jonathan, and carefully wiped the blood from his face. Jonathan stared at me, his eyes full of intense emotion. Roma, you don't care about me anymore? Ethan sat slumped to the side, devastated. It only happened once with her, just once. Roma, why are you taking revenge on me like this? My heart hurts so much I can't breathe. I stood up and looked down at him coldly. Ethan, how dare you say something like that at this point? Only once? Are you saying video sex doesn't count? I forgot to tell you, I installed a camera in the study. Ethan jolted violently. Stop, don't say it. I stared straight at him, word by word. So everything you did with Anna over video, I saw it with my own eyes. You two disgust me. Ethan's face turned deathly pale. Suddenly, he pushed himself up and dropped to his knees with a thud. Roma, I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. I really do love you. These days without you, I kept thinking about our past and the things I did. I wanted to beat myself to death. Roma, you love me, right? Give me another chance. I swear from now on I'll devote myself to loving only you. Kneeling there with bloodshot eyes, he looked like a stray dog. Ethan, what are you saying? From the doorway, Anna had arrived without anyone noticing. She stood there quietly, staring in disbelief at Ethan on his knees. What do you mean you'll love only her from now on? Then what about me? Didn't we promise we'd overcome everything to be together? Her voice was soft, trembling noticeably. Chapter 29. It had only been a few days since we last met, but many pimples had appeared on her face, and the dark circles under her eyes were severe. The strong smell of smoke clung to her, making it obvious she had been having a terrible time lately. Ethan closed his eyes. Anna, we can't keep making this mistake. Let the past stay in the past. Anna's face was full of resentment, completely stripped of her usual carefree composure. The past? You mean you used me up and now want to pretend nothing ever happened? Ethan suddenly opened his eyes, anger surfacing. Haven't you ruined me enough? If you hadn't insisted on that live stream at the company and seduced me at that moment, how would I have ended up like this? The career I worked so hard for is gone. My family is destroyed. You've ruined my entire life. Smack! 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 Anna rushed forward and slapped him hard across the face several times. Ethan quietly endured it, looking at her with cold eyes. Anna then turned to glare at me, voice filled with hatred. You got him back. You won. Are you satisfied now? I looked at her helplessly. To be honest, I think you two are quite a match. You should stay locked together forever. Now that you've fallen out like this, I'm actually not very satisfied. Her eyes reddened. She clenched her teeth and glared viciously at me. I did nothing wrong. I'm not the third party. You're the one who came later. I only lost because my luck was bad. Otherwise, I would have married Ethan and become a huge influencer. My failure doesn't mean I was wrong. I nodded. You should have held back on the day of the live stream. You'd agreed not to cross the final line. So why couldn't you resist? Also, I stepped closer, blinked, and whispered softly. Do you really think becoming an internet celebrity just fell into your lap? Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I smiled. Nothing special. I work in online marketing. I just know the industry a little better. Happen to be good at designing campaigns, and have some resources. Anna's lips began trembling. After a moment, she screamed and rushed out of the room. Silence returned. Ethan looked at me, his gaze drifting. Roma, so you knew all along? You already decided to take revenge? I smiled. Yes, I knew long ago. If it weren't for fulfilling my mother's wish, I would never have married you. As for revenge, I wasn't that obsessed. But you two should never ever have done that in my mother's mourning hall. I didn't even want to release the footage because it would dirty my hands. But my mom didn't love you in vain. You two perfectly cooperated and performed on your own. Ethan collapsed onto the floor, lost and defeated. Roma, do you still love me? What do you think? I said mockingly. He trembled. When did you stop loving me? I looked at him calmly, voice steady and cold. From the moment you and Anna planned to marry me and divorce me without considering my situation. From the moment you decided to take a one-yuan salary to guard against me sharing your marital assets. From the moment you forged the medical report and chose to stay celibate for her. From the moment you planned to make me misunderstand your secretary and wanted to use her being a lesbian to prove I was being unreasonable. As for the things you did on video in the study later, I could already watch calmly and simply feel disgusted. Ethan lowered his head deeply, like a petrified statue, completely motionless. Even when Jonathan and I left, he remained in that same posture. Chapter 30. Ethan and I never registered our marriage. The 2 times we had scheduled to register, we both missed them because I accidentally forgot to bring the required documents. We had no joint property, only that apartment. Back then, Anna hadn't appeared yet. Ethan's career was thriving. When we bought the place together, he was in high spirits and insisted that only my name be on the deed. In the future, if you're mad at me, you can stay here with perfect justification and kick me out, because this is your house. At that time, he must have been absolutely confident in his love. I posted a divorce announcement on my social media. Ethan's scandal was everywhere, and everyone sincerely congratulated me. Even his childhood friends awkwardly sent messages apologizing. I deleted and blocked them all in return. After we separated, I would often see Ethan downstairs. He never came up, never approached. He would show up very late at night. I never knew when he left. Once, I finally lost my patience and rushed downstairs to ask him what he wanted. His face was pale and drawn, his eyes full of pain. Roma, I can't sleep. Only by being a little closer to you can I close my eyes for a while. Don't worry, I won't disturb you. I'm just very tired. So I sold the apartment. Suddenly, I had a large sum of money in my hands. I simply resigned and traveled all over the country. By the time I returned, almost everyone I knew was eager to tell me about the latest sensational news. With no way out, Anna had started live streaming again. This time, she was infamous. Infamy is still fame. Her live stream was filled with insults. Yet those insults fueled her traffic. She even began selling products. Later, netizens were shocked to discover that Ethan's figure began appearing behind her during streams. For some reason, the two were now living together, but their relationship was clearly far from harmonious. During streams, Ethan's cursing could often be heard. At first, I found it hard to believe. After all, Ethan had always been emotionally stable, rarely even speaking harshly, until a friend showed me a clip. Ethan was unshaven, wearing a stained shirt, his face twisted as he mocked Anna. They didn't even bother hiding it during the live stream. I was deeply shaken. Was the man in the video really the gentle, cleanliness-obsessed Ethan? Was that woman truly the cool, aloof, sharp-tongued Anna? Ethan's words were vicious and unbearable. You only look decent when you're dressed up to fool people. You've got nothing, your skin's dark and rough. I don't even feel desire touching you. And what are all those black spots on you? They're so dense they trigger trypophobia. The more viciously Ethan cursed, the higher the live stream's viewership climbed. Anna endured it, occasionally firing back with a curse. But under such distorted frenzy, evil eventually blooms. Perhaps Anna's tolerance had reached its breaking point. On a stormy night, while Ethan was asleep, she decisively cut off one of his organs and flushed it down the toilet. Ethan reportedly ran out covering himself, seeking help, leaving a trail of blood behind him. Anna was sentenced to 4 years in prison for intentional injury. I was stunned. It felt like watching a tragic thriller with a B ending, and I couldn't recover for a long time. Chapter 31. 6 months later, I joined a new company and, under the enthusiastic concern of friends and family, began going on blind dates. That day, I sat in a cafe, leisurely sipping a latte while waiting for my next match. Not far away, Jonathan, wearing a crisp suit and holding a bouquet of red roses, walked toward me with shining eyes. I was stunned. So the person they introduced is you? Jonathan smiled brightly, his tone gentle. It's me. I took the initiative to ask for this opportunity. Roma, I like you. I hope you'll give me a chance to pursue you. He looked at me intently, sincerity mixed with a hint of nervousness. I watched him quietly for a long moment. After a while, I lowered my gaze. Jonathan, you're not suitable. He looked a little anxious, but quickly regained his composure and said with a smile, Roma, give me a reason, otherwise, I won't give up. I turned my head and looked out at the early summer street beyond the window. That day, I overheard your conversation with Ethan outside the restaurant. You arranged it on purpose, didn't you? Even Anna, you gave her money so she would divorce her ex-husband and return to the city, right? I let out a soft sigh and looked at his seemingly harmless face. When did you start liking me? Was it when I saved you? He was silent for a long time before speaking softly. Even earlier, but it was when you held me underwater that I first wanted to take you away from him. I nodded. I see. He suddenly lifted his head and stared at me passionately. Believe it or not, my feelings for you are deeper than Ethan's. I'll treat you 100 times better than he ever did. I'll give you a higher standard of living. I promise you absolute freedom. Roma, could you try to accept me? I smiled and slowly shook my head. I'm sorry, Jonathan. From the moment you entered my life with calculation and schemes, I could never accept you. So goodbye, or perhaps, farewell forever. I stood up, took a rosebud from the bouquet, and walked out of the cafe. As I stepped through the revolving door, a text message arrived. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., Botanical Garden, University Biology Professor. I replied, on time. I lifted the rosebud and inhaled its scent, smiling softly as I strode into the sunlit street. The glass is clear, the oranges glow bright. Over 30. Divorced, perhaps the road of blind dates will be long, but no matter what lies ahead, I have crossed thorns and smelled roses. I carry both confidence and calm within me. Flowers will bloom along the way, and so will the path ahead.